Good afternoon. This is the board workshop for the Board of Trustees in the McAllen Independent School District, which is meeting today, Wednesday, June the 23rd, 2021, and it's now 4:30 p.m. We are at the Texas Our Texas Staff Development Building of Achieve Early College High School, which is at 1601 North 27th Street, McAllen, Texas 78501. At this meeting, there will be discussion by the board on items and subjects listed on the agenda. Public comments related to this meeting will be held as follows. It's either by going to the website, which is McAllen-ISD.org/page/public-comments. Public comments are made in person, subject to social distancing requirements of the Our Texas Staff Development Room at Achieve Early College High School. You can also go online to McAllen-ISD.org/page/school-board-meetings or by telephone call to the following number, 956-618-6094. We'll now go to public comment. We do have one speaker that met the criteria for today's public comment, which is talking about ESSER funds, and that's Mr. Jerry Jewell. I now need to read some couple of statements regarding public comment. The board encourages public comments at all board meetings according to board policy, BED, local board meetings, public participation, and related district administration procedures and practices. Persons wanting to make a statement to the board are required to register with the superintendent's secretary 1 hour prior to the start of the scheduled meeting. Each participant is limited to 2 minutes per meeting to make comments to the board. Audience participation at a board meeting is limited at the early stage of the meeting. At all other times during a board meeting, audience shall not enter into discussions or debate on matters being considered by the board unless requested. The board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. If an issue mentioned is at tonight's agenda, the board will defer discussion of the issue until the appropriate time during the meeting. The board has adopted complaint policies that are designed to secure it at the lowest administrative level, a prompt and equitable resolution of complaints and concerns. Please refer to the following policies. Student and or parent complaints is policy FNG. Employees is policy DGBA, and citizens is policy GF. So at this time, Mr. Jerry Jewell, if he's present, if you go ahead and go to the podium. Once you start speaking, you'll have 2 minutes, and Mr. Tony Forina will keep time, I guess. And Trustee Alicela, if you're ready. Trustee Alicela, our board secretary, will keep time, and she'll let you know when your 2 minutes are up. And whenever you're ready, start, Mr. Jewell.
Members of the board, Dr. Gonzalez. My name is Jerry Jewell. I'm a local pastor. My wife is an RN at Driscoll Children's Hospital, and our son Daniel just finished top 10 at Cathy Middle School in his interim memorial in the fall. Our family is very thankful to McAllen ISD because our son has really thrived here. And Dr. Gonzalez, we feel that your foresight had McAllen ISD well prepared for the pandemic, and having spoken to friends all around the country, we see that McAllen ISD was far ahead of the curve in education during the pandemic, so thank you for your leadership. However, we see that McAllen in general and McAllen ISD is lagging behind when it comes to health and wellness. McAllen has consistently ranked the fattest city in the country with high rates of complications such as diabetes. The CDC says that obesity is one of the greatest predictors of hospitalization and death from COVID-19. So we would like to ask that these grant funds, that some of them be used to improve the health and wellness facilities of the district, and not just football. We would like that you please look at other sports that promote long-term fitness, particularly swimming. In the last week, we cheered for Shane Casas as he was chasing Olympic glory, but frankly, our school swimming facilities are inadequate. The row facility is in disrepair, and it's insufficient for the district. We need a first-class natatorium, adequate for 3 high schools, multiple middle schools, and we need practice pools. This will enable students to chase the Olympic dream, but even more importantly, to encourage a lifestyle of health and wellness, which is a long-term gain for our city. So please consider using grant money to improve pools and to build a natatorium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. This will conclude the public comment portion of our meeting, which was item 2 on the agenda. We'll now proceed to item 3, the report regarding ESSER 3 update and district model. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. This is a report from our special funding department. And regarding the ESSER 3 progress towards submitting the application to the Texas Education Agency, Ms. Laura Williams, our Director for Special Funding, will present her report, and this item is for information purposes only. Ms. Areli will be presenting the report, and Mrs. Williams will be tag teaming if necessary.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. We do have some very important topics today and 45 minutes to do it, so we're going to be swiftly moving through this. If we can hold questions to the end of the presentation, I think that would help us make sure that we are able to impart all of the information we want to impart today. We're going to begin with Ms. Adele Felix. She's going to be reviewing the district finance model, and that'll be a great segue into the ESSER presentation because it's going to shed some light on some of the needs that we have, and ESSER will then fill in some of those needs. And then we also have some guests here today that are going to talk about an initiative with Quinta Mazatlan for your consideration. So those are the three items that we want to make sure we impart with you today. So without further ado, Ms. Adele Felix will begin.
Thank you.
Today I will be presenting on the district finance model based on our 2021 budget that was adopted on June 14th. We were asked if state funding alone is able to cover our campus costs and if any other revenue sources will pay for our department budgets, our overhead, and so forth. As well as if funding could be set aside for capital projects to address our district's facility needs. You know, it's been a hot topic. To answer those questions, I wanted to give you a general breakdown of how our funding actually works. For this presentation, I will focus on the General Fund 199, which includes athletics, fine arts, and the Gifted and Talented program. We do receive other state funds, but these are restricted for our special populations and restricted for that program alone. And they are not reflected on this model as they stand alone. This shows our ins and outs of Fund 199. Our revenue sources for our general fund include state funding as calculated by TEA, with TEA based on our ADA, and the district tax effort. And that's going to be a big component of our computation moving forward, and available school fund. Property taxes is based on our property appraised value and collection rate, and also based on the historical collection rate. And other revenues could include indirect costs from our grants, our special populations, interest, and our shelters program. Our operating expenditures, our outs, is our campus costs, you know, how to keep our campuses running, keep the lights on and everything, including our per student allotments, our salaries, resources needed, and including those three: athletics, fine arts, and gifted and talented. Overhead costs include our department budgets, including structured and operational, salaries related to that, district-wide licenses, utilities, technology, insurances, and of course the payment of our maintenance tax notes. So our regular ADA, our regular allotment, is based on our predicted ADA for next year, subtracting our special education, excluding mainstream. Mainstream is not in this calculation. The other categories are because they require special instructional arrangements to be made and a reduction of our CTE ADE. So that brings us to $17,383 at our basic allotment of $6160 for our regular allotment of $107 million. The goal is to maintain our funding at the ADA level. However, that funding is reduced. It's based on our tax effort. So that computation is based on our property value increase and projected collection rate. It's a balancing act. So as our property taxes increase, our state funding will decrease. And likely, our property taxes will continue to increase. The only way it would decrease is if our collection rate would decrease for some reason. But it's a balancing act. It's not a dollar for dollar, but it's built into the computation. So, as you can see, our SOF regular allotment based on the tax effort net of the tax effort in our tier 2 is reduced by $58 million, bringing our regular 199 allotment to almost a little bit close to $49 million. A layer of that includes our available school fund. This rate changes annually and is adopted by the State Board of Education annually. This next year's rate will be $200 for prior year ADA, and that is $20,279 at $200. Since 2002, the rate has fluctuated, and the lowest it's been is $182, and the highest it's been is $484 per student, per qualifying student. On top of that, we get other state funds, which includes our transportation allotment and any reimbursements for, partial reimbursement for our certification to exams, college prep, and so forth, to a tune of $740 in total. Now, our campus budgets, for a total of $53.5 million. Our campus budgets total $126 million. So you can see that gap there. Other revenue sources come in with our property taxes, which are estimated at $85.8 for next year. Our indirect costs, which from our grants and our special populations, are $25.4 million. Then we have others that includes our SHARs, our interest, and so forth. A total of $114 million. Now our overhead, our outs, include our department budgets of $33.5, our repayment of our 3 maintenance tax notes of almost $4 million, our next year's tech lease payment of $1.7, our insurance for $1.6, and utilities non-campus of about $800,000, for a total of $41.6 million. Now here we have an overage and a shortage, right? So we take that excess of 72 and we swap it. So what this shows is all revenues for us are pulled together and then budgeted at their appropriate respective areas. But the goal is to maintain us at the ADA funding level. If you go back to the 107, it's a little bit excess and so forth. But even after all that background noise, the puzzle pieces go together, all the formulas, they attempt to leave us at the state funding level. Any questions on this before I move on to the capital projects? Okay. Now, in response to the capital projects question, if we were able to put some monies aside for that, in fiscal year 1920, we were able to create 3 capital projects funds. 2 are in response to the infamous maintenance tax note series 2020, where that project listing for our facilities was approved by the board to address our needs. And we also were able to create an internal fund based on the sale of properties and House Bill 3 one-time allotments. And we were, or any board assigned projects if monies were available. And that is included in our 698 internal capital projects funds. Now, historically, what has happened is we would assign for our facilities or other needs based on previous year's recognized savings. Our strategies included budgeting conservatively, as always. We monitor our funding regularly, and we adjust accordingly, as you see in our budget amendments on a monthly basis. And we, of course, focus on, our goal is to maintain our unassigned fund balance. Those previous year savings has allowed us to assign to these identified projects below. 2 of them that I've listed are non-capital, but they were significant, so it's just to bring it to your attention to help fund in the buses. And but some were related to our capital projects, including the science lab, parking lots, and replacement schedules, and so forth. So it was suggested that maybe we were able to put maybe 5% annually aside to meet those needs. It was just a number that was brought up, so that would cost about $8.4 million. The challenge with trying to have $8.4 million on top of what we currently have is we have a continued drop in enrollment. With HB3, we are seeing a continued annual state tax compression, and we are also subject to additional local compression, which we were this past year. And also, we are challenged with trying to provide an annual compensation increase. So that 8.4, as you can see, kind of is out of our balancing model, and we rely on the excess funds excess fund balance at the close of our fiscal year. So if you were to include the 8.5, a possible increase, we would be looking at an annual 14.4 additional monies. Here is our fund balance comparison from fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20. So the green represents our unassigned fund balance, and we focus on maintaining that. You know, those are, TEA recommends holding at least 75 days. We are above that, because that did increase from 60 to 75 in the past year. And the blue is where our assignments come into play. That is a rolling balance of projects that we've been able to assign based on the previous year's savings. So just to segue into our ESSER, this monies has come at a perfect time, because now anything that we could be able to justify under the ESSER can now free up these monies that are able to be assigned into other projects that maybe do not meet the ESSER qualifications. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, I do have a couple. If we
Okay.
can go back to the slide. Before you went on, you said any questions. I did, but we had an agreement that we would not ask questions until the
I
presentation.
wrote the agreement.
So we're acting in good faith. It's going to be the capital project, the history.
Okay.
You mentioned qualifying students. On the State Board of Education every year determines an allotment. And you said you gave us a low range and a high range, and you're anticipating roughly $200 per student. And then you caught yourself and you said qualifying student. What determines a qualifying student?
It's that they are enrolled in our school. So yes, 20,279, yes.
So that's what makes them qualified, is they're enrolled.
Correct.
It doesn't
And
matter what population they are, they're just
Correct.
enrolled.
That's why you see the variance between the 20,279 and the 17,000, because if we were going based on ADA, we'd get the 19,738.
Okay. You also mentioned insurance, and I just want to make sure you're talking about facility insurance
Correct.
for our properties, not the insurances
No,
for
the-
stopgap or anything like that on
No,
the health
our-
coverage. Okay, good. TRE, we know that with HB3, it all changed. And so whatever we had already, that the public had approved, a TRE, and it looked like it was going to be there for quite a while, but not even 2 years, a year later, it all changed on TRE, and the board had a chance, or the administration and the board, the district, to continue with that TRE or return those monies back to the taxpayer and not continue to draw that tax rate, which we chose not to do. I mean, we chose not to take on the tax. In other words, we were going to
Correct.
move the monies back to
To our INS. to our
INS, exactly, instead of leaving it in FMNO, which would have allowed us to continue to collect those monies.
Yeah, so now there is, we are not allowed to do a TRE. Well, we've already done it, but we would have to go through an audit of some sort, but it wouldn't apply to us. But that does allow us, if, I'm going to go into further.
Well, before, I don't want you to misunderstand my question. I was trying to lay the foundation that the TRE that was passed no longer applies, because we had a choice. Since we had just passed it, the bill allowed anybody that just passed one, you could still go on and keep it, but this district chose not to. So we moved it back to INS, so we're only charging what's remaining for the prior bond.
Correct.
And so the TRE extra monies that we thought we were going to get no longer exist.
Correct, that is correct.
In the future, we could do a TRE, but it goes through you have to go through a lot of
An
steps,
efficiency
including an
audit.
audit and efficiency, et cetera, to even before, and then it caps you at what, 2.5 is the max?
I'm not sure about the cap, but yes, we would have to take
Okay.
multiple steps in order to.
All right, and on behalf of the board and the conversations that the officers have had with the superintendent, and today, unfortunately, I was the only one making the call, but we started to talk about shelving, not shoveling, but shelf ready. In other words, ideas that have been brought to the board, including these that are listed here, that could not be allocated funds this year, they would actually be do a preliminary idea of cost analysis, so we could shelve it, so maybe at a later point, as we come up for decision making, we already knew what the cost would be. So could we now add the natatorium to this list, if we would, please? Okay. You mentioned about the excess fund balance of 14.8 additional. additional to,
No,
If you wanna go-
14.8?
yeah, you mentioned that we would be short on
no.
that 8.4.
If I were just basing it on estimates of loss of state funding and/or a potential compensation increase, we'd be looking at an additional 14, almost 14. I'm just doing estimates in my
I know.
head as far as what it would cost us annually to keep that going.
And the way it's working, as you laid out, and we've all experienced on this board, is we kind of see where we are at the end of the year with the savings that we've made throughout the year and seeing if we can make any compensation for our employees. And that's what you were referencing here.
Not necessarily the compensation, because you try to build it in, it's more for the projects, but we'd have to find the compensation portion and the loss of the state funding to meet our budget on an annual. So this schedule here shows you after we close and what we're able to assign from the savings.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Ms.
Thank you.
Benavides.
So that is a great segue into our ESSER presentation, because like Ms. Felix mentioned, we don't budget any of these projects into our budget. So we have to wait until we have possible excess to be able to pay for some of these facilities improvements or replacement schedules. So ESSER 3 comes at a great time for us. I won't spend too much time. We discussed this at the previous board meeting, the purpose and the public input effort that has gone into ESSER 3. We have written plans that are already either on the website. For example, the return to school plan is already on our website, our ESSER 3 page, and our ESSER master plan will be there by tomorrow. We're going to discuss the projects today, and if there are not too many edits, then we're able to get that on our website by tomorrow, because we are going to be submitting the ESSER 3 application for the 60% allowable or allotted by tomorrow. We also have surveys that went along with these written plans. So the Safe to School plan also had a survey in English and Spanish. The plan is available in English and Spanish on our website right now, and we have already received some information regarding the return to school plan. We have 1,974 responses as of 11:53 this morning, and we had 5 questions that we asked. The vast majority of the responders were satisfied or agreed or strongly agreed with us having the resources to implement the safety plan and satisfied with the communication, comfortable with the plan. The 5 to 10% that strongly disagreed, if we were to summarize all of those comments as we went through them, is that they would like a remote learning option, that they would like a remote learning option due to the vaccine not being yet available for the younger students, and that they would like a remote learning option due to the concern that safety protocols will not be followed or are optional, for example, the masks, right? So since we synthesized the comments of the 5 to 10% that strongly disagreed, this is where the comments fell in these areas.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. 5 to 10% strongly disagree that they'd like a remote learning option?
No, sorry. These were the survey results to the questions, and 5 to 10% of the responders strongly disagreed that they feel comfortable with the safety plan. So 5 to 10% of the total responses of the 1,974 felt strongly that they did not feel comfortable with the return to school plan.
So it's not that they're disagreeing with the 3 points, the remote learning option,
No.
remote learning option due to vaccine not yet available for younger students, or the remote learning option due to the concern that safety protocols would not be followed?
No, the 5 to 10% that strongly disagreed with the return to school plan,
Got it.
their comments, the reason they strongly disagreed was because they felt that they didn't have a remote learning option, which they would like.
Got it.
So right now, as you know, TA has not approved a waiver or allowed a waiver for remote learning. So a lot of school districts, including McAllen ISD's return to school plan, includes a face-to-face option only. And the 5 to 10% of the responders felt that they would like a remote learning option.
Thank you, ma'am.
And this is important for our conversations going forward regarding ESSER and that
Right.
possibility.
So ESSER would like, it was important and part of the compliance for us to put this plan out and then solicit feedback because it does have implications.
Thank you.
So when reviewing the master plan, we have adjusted the amounts under our categories. So student learning right now at 44.3 million, student needs at 22 million, long-term emergency closures at 16 million, safety at 19.1. I want to also mention that these amounts is the total of ESSER 3 and ESSER 2 combined. So as we're evaluating the projects, we evaluated them as a group with all of the funding in mind. But we realized that the applications to submit the funding are different dates, and so we do have flexibility with regards to some movement around the projects. Nonetheless, because the compliance is essentially the same around both grants, it made more sense to us to look at this holistically. In yellow, we still have that other category. All of those projects have been denoted for ESSER 2, so we do have some time to continue to vet and prioritize those projects. In the ESSER master plan that we will be publishing tomorrow, we're going to include the financial breakdown of the ESSER 3 allocation and the ESSER 2 allocation. The ESSER 3 allocation is 90 million. You'll see that we have to apply for the 2/3 and then the 1/3 of the money because that's how the funds were released. So that's why we broke it out between 2/3 and 1/3. So we're going to be submitting the application tomorrow for 2/3 of the funds, the 60 million. That's all we're allowed to submit for at this time. And then we'll go back and submit for the 1/3. That's why you see that breakdown. We also included a breakdown by account. This is how we are going to be submitting it to TEA. It's by these account buckets. And so all of our projects are summarized by these buckets, and this is how it will be submitted. So again, ESSER 3 is broken up by 2/3 and 1/3, and this is how that breaks down. Student learning with the $44 million includes various projects within it, and Ms. V is going to share with us some of the highlights around the structure that is being created to support students in terms of student learning.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Benavides, and good afternoon, Board of Trustees and Dr. Gonzalez. The visual that is displayed, will display, is a visual and overview of 2 curriculum and instruction teams that we house at central office. There are the elementary curriculum instruction people, the coordinators of math, science, social studies, English, and strategists, the assist, and they're the same on the secondary side. And so these are essentially teachers with master's degrees in various degrees, their subjects that they teach or their curriculum and instruction. And they are our teachers that bring instruction and support to all of the teachers across the district. There it goes. It's because they're such a dynamic team. It just had to do that. That came from heaven. They are that powerful.
It changes from minute to minute.
Yes, that is the dynamic curriculum instruction team there. So highlighting in yellow are their positions, and those are existing, and that's what we fund through the 199 budget. They're all in yellow. In gray are the highlighted positions that we propose to include in the ESSER funding proposal. We know that this proposal and these positions would be for 3 years, but we just believe that this is going to be what's necessary to bring the incredible instruction and support and resources to the teachers. So I'm going to give you a brief description of each of those 5 positions listed and displayed there in gray. 3 of them are on the elementary curriculum and instruction team. 1 position, ESSER student learning facilitator, will work closely with the campus teachers. There will be one of these positions at every elementary campus, and they'll work very closely with the campus teachers, the coaches at the campus, the interventionists, the administrators, as well as the district curriculum instruction team leaders to calibrate and develop a prescriptive approach to meeting the needs for all of our kids, exactly where they're at. What did they learn? What do they need? We're going to teach them, reteach them, and enrich them. Another, which is powerfully, and teachers have always requested it, is the assistance of an instructional aide beside the kindergarten teacher. This is powerful. They work in centers, the small children, and so this aide would be assisting that teacher of the kindergarten level. And these kindergarten teachers teach all subjects. So this is a powerful position that we believe will give us a jump boost for the children as they're acquiring the acquisition of reading and math. And the last one is the ESSER K through 2 instructional coach. At every campus, we already have an instructional coach and a math interventionist at every elementary campus that work with kids in groups, work with teachers, and just interchangeably move and bring that extra support, whether it be reteach or enrich. But now what the teachers have always asked for at the campuses, and we propose it, is the ESSER K through 2 instructional coach. So instead of this literacy coach taking care of the children from kinder through 5th, there would be one literacy coach helping the teachers of kinder through 2nd, and then the other one can split up and help the kids from 3rd through 5th. It'll be a powerful, powerful something. And then on the secondary side, well, actually there's one right there in the center. You see ESSER 3 through 8 literacy strategist, and this would be a teacher that would come to the district along with the curriculum instruction, and she would work with the content integration of writing that's going to happen in all of the subjects. She would be an excellent writing teacher that's out there somewhere, and she would be able to face the teachers with confidence 3rd through 5th, and the teachers with confidence 6th through 8th, because McAllen ISD has some amazing teachers. So when you get on this curriculum instruction team, you need to be able to be very, very strong for this position. And then the last position that we propose specifically and only for Travis, Brown, and De Leon. We propose the student learning facilitator to go in there for this season of 3 years, and this person would work with the campus teachers, the existing coaches, the interventionists, the administrators, as well as the C&I team, for a very prescriptive service, again, to the teachers and the students to help them learn.
You could go to slide 17. I think some of them are being described there.
Yes, sir. And that's it.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead. Trustee Sweattick.
That's on a different slide. I know that one of the issues that we're going to face is mental health. Do we have jobs allocated for that as well?
Yes. Yes, let's go through that as well. And Dr. De Hoyos can shed some light on that.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Arelian.
I'm sorry if I jumped it, but I was just.
No, yeah,
Good
that's great.
afternoon. You're just a second ahead, sir. So here first of all, we are showing the positions that we currently have in yellow. And if you can see the first row under the levels, elementary, middle school, and high school, we have our academic counselors serving in each level. And their role is really first response to crisis, to students wanting to express what they're going through. And then they work with some, mostly in prevention and in what?
You're
No.
good. I just thought it'd be good for us to see the job descriptions as you were describing it.
Oh, well, I'm not
I'm sorry,
there
go
yet.
ahead. Go ahead. All right.
If you don't
It's okay.
mind. Yeah.
It's okay.
So I was just explaining the yellow, and then we'll get there in just a second. You're
right.
also a step ahead, sir.
I know.
Okay, so I was talking about the first row, and this is what I call the first response, the prevention and some intervention. Obviously, their main goal is the academic and students succeeding in school. The second row is where we are in most need of the intervention, individual counseling and group counseling, so that we are able to address the students' needs and knowing that they're coming in not only with learning gaps, but also in the area of mental health. And so we are utilizing for this coming year the social workers in a different capacity, and they are going to be utilized for middle school and high school in the capacity of intervention. So focus on those interventions for the mental health need. Where we do need, have a gap in staff will be at the elementary, and that's why we're proposing that we use ESSER funds to support the elementaries with 9 additional intervention counselors. And now we can go, if you would like, I was just going to read the job description. So for the intervention.
Before you do that, because you're a step ahead. You go back
Okay.
to the other slide.
Go ahead.
So in the middle school, that's really the age that concerns me, that we wouldn't have a bigger emphasis and ask and outcry for a lot more help in the middle school. My experience just with being on the board and talking to parents is that middle school, between the 7th, 8th grade, before they transition to high school, is whether you get them or you lose them. And I would think now, because we lost that year, and these kids have really not been, socially out there, that we would have a lot more emphasis in the middle school, but I see a gap there.
Well, actually, you probably are looking at the gap because of the grade. If I take you back to that second row where it says 6 social workers and 5 social workers, right there, we were not utilizing social workers in that capacity before. We will, starting this year, 21, 22.
Well, where did they come from?
They have been in the federal program, funded by federal programs, and they were serving in a different capacity where it was more resource for families, for the community, ensuring that students had shelter, that had clothing.
And I'm not arguing with you. That part's not going to go away.
It's not going to go away, sir, but we are now utilizing them for intervention, and each social worker will be taking care of a student caseload and working more in a intervention capacity with students that before they were not utilized that way.
It would just, and I'm not an expert, right, but my suggestion to Dr. Gonzalez would be if there is money that has not been allocated, to put, the last thing we want to do is dilute one program to try to help another. It seems like we're swapping from one area to another, where we know that area we're swapping from, these social workers are swamped with work. I mean, it's not going to get any better. So if we were to tell our community, we're using some of this money to make sure that our kids are stable and we have extra work for them, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. And I don't think anybody would agree, well, you should just get them from this program and move them over here. I think this sets the foundation for education and for everything else. That's just my suggestion. But if there's money that we haven't thought about using, or there's, we're worried, we don't know where it's going, I think that would be an excellent area to justify putting that money. Because I know, we all know that this next coming year, the biggest challenge is going to be how these kids respond socially. So, just my suggestion.
If you can't make it for this, there will be other opportunities to amend this. So I think as we move forward, I think Trustee Suarez probably is echoing the feeling of most of us in this room. So if we can't do it for this, and hopefully as a supplement too, I totally agree that moving folks into different roles, I think those other jobs probably haven't. So something to think about. I think it's a solid recommendation. Go ahead.
Point well taken. We will definitely look into that. And we're going to segue into Quinta next. Ms. Areli?
Yes, that's right. They have their presentation loaded.
Just so the board knows, the administration is not going slide by slide, but if we need to after our grievance hearings, we can come back around and continue, or we can leave it as it is, whatever the board decides over the next couple of hours as to what we want to do. But let's go ahead with Quinta. Dr. Gonzalez.
Good afternoon, Board, Trustees, Dr. Gonzalez. My name is Colleen Hook. I'm the manager at Quinta Mazatlan. And I've had the great privilege of working at Quinta Mazatlan before we even opened our doors. And the first order of business was, how are we going to work with MISD? And I'm proud to say that we are doubling our campus from 12 acres to 25 acres. And our first order of business is, how are we going to work with MISD, and how are we going to work with UTRGV to make this an environmental education enrichment facility. While we love birders, birders will go to the Brownsville dump if that's where the bird is. And they do bring in economic impact to our hotels and motels. But our top priority is our children of the Valley. And we want to give them the same opportunities that children in Dallas and Austin and Houston and other locales have. This is the Center for Urban Ecology in partnership with UT-RGV. The second floor is the Center for Urban Ecology. It is a science biology lab. We are designing the rooms to be glass with open doors so the students and the professors can interact with all the students from MISD and ask questions about what they're studying and what they're working on. And the whole point of these projects is a lot of time graduation projects are binders that get put on a shelf. The whole aspect of this partnership with UT-RGV is to create projects that are going to be implemented in the community. So these are stewardship, volunteer, environmental projects that the students can work on to improve their own environment and to improve their own school campus. The old Quinta and the new Quinta collectively is around 25 acres. You can see there's a transit park and ride. It's going to be state of the art. It's a huge campus that is going to provide a lot of enrichment programming for K through 12. The enrichment programming comes with a beautiful facility that is going to be inspiring. And again, children presently, when they come to Quinta Mazatlan, a lot of times they leave and say, this was the best day of my life. And after being home and being faced what they've faced for a year, we need more creative educational experiences like this for our children. It truly brings tears to your eyes when a student leaves saying that, and then they come back and they bring their families, and then the students are the tour guides, and the students are telling the children, their grandparents and their aunts and uncles, the names of the birds and the plants and the importance of a home and a habitat. Some of the beautiful facility is going to be a state-of-the-art building designed with some of the best green architects in Texas. But our mission at Quinta Mazatlan has always been a mansion with a mission, one backyard at a time. And so we are putting in a significant amount of habitat, again, to serve as a demonstration site that even our own backyards ought to have a habitat. One of the wow experiences for the children will be this skywalk through the canopy of the thorn forest. What a rare experience for our children. Our buildings are going to be a first in Texas, and I'd like our urban ecologist, John Brush, to highlight some of our environmental education programs for you.
Thank you, Colleen. So this project is the first project in Texas to target both LEED Platinum and Sustainable Sites certifications. So we're really leading the way in terms of sustainability in our building and on our grounds for this project. And this is the stage that we're creating for our students to become scientists and to do science out in the field. So we really believe in creating lessons in which students practice the scientific method, learning both the skills as part of that and what careers that those skills are connected to. So it's really about hands-on experiential learning, even if that means putting on some wading boots, getting into a pond, and collecting aquatic invertebrates to survey, like this student was doing. And at the same time that we're nurturing our students, we're also learning information that helps us care for and conserve the ecosystems that provide economic, mental, and physical health. So that's why overall, this project is going to be a net habitat positive. So that means we're going to end up with more habitat than we started with. And it's our vision to expand that beyond just the boundaries of Quinta Mazatlan and continue that growth out into the community in the valley. So for instance, how wonderful would it be to establish tiny forests? Imagine the forest like this photo at Quinta Mazatlan, but no larger than a tennis court. Imagine pockets of those forests popping up in our communities and all the ecosystem services that they provide. I can imagine a tiny forest on every MISD school campus, serving not only as a place for students to enjoy nature and seeing the wildlife and exploring and touching and feeling, but also as an opportunity to grow with these forests and learn with them these scientific skills to help better understand the process. Thank you. That's back to Colin.
This is the extension of the Center for Urban Ecology, a tiny forest on every school campus, planted by the children, nurtured by the children, watered by the children, weeded by the children. And as they grow up, this will be their forest that they put on their campus. This is the Center for Urban Ecology. It's a significant campus. It'll offer a lot of enrichment program opportunities. You can see a sensory garden, an outdoor healthy cooking pavilion, an ethnobotanical garden, a leadership low ropes course. How great it would be to provide our children a minor in leadership, possibly focusing on 7th through 12th grade. Why wait to high school for them to get this leadership training? They need it before then. And just like water is the focus in our life, water is the central focus of this plan, we are creating a physical metaphor of the Rio Grande River, a 1,900-mile river, and this is going to be a quarter-mile walk. The children will start their walk in the headwaters of Colorado. They will walk through the Rio Gorge in New Mexico. They will come upon Falcon Dam. You can see in the back we've designed these large teaching pavilions to house 60 students. So outdoor learning, outdoor lunch. It can be a whole day exercise or half a day program. Ending their historic walk at the Gulf of Mexico with this mist feature. The children will start their experience and end their experience running through a magical ebony grove, the most valuable tree in our thorn forest. So in closing, this is the Center for Urban Ecology, and it's designed to offer learning, enrichment, activity programs. And the acronym for that is LEAP. So let's help our students leap into a more productive and stronger future. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for that powerful presentation. Very well done.
Thank you.
Before the board asks any questions, real quick, I need to open the 5:15 meeting of the Board of Trustees at 5:18. I'm sorry, let me back up. I'm going to recess the 4:30 meeting of the Board of Trustees at 5:18 p.m. Open the 5:15 meeting of the Board of Trustees, which is scheduled for today, a special board meeting, at 5:18. Close that one, recess that one at this time at 5:19 p.m. and then reconvene the 4:30 meeting of the Board of Trustees, which is the presentation of ESSER. So we can now ask questions if we have any regarding the presentation of Quinta Mazatlan. Mr. Suarez, Trustee Suarez.
I think my question is more for Dr. Gonzalez, but do we have field trips, and is McAllen ISD put Quinta Mazatlan into the curriculum?
Yes, sir. Quinta is a big part of our science curriculum right now. We use it for providing our students with authentic learning experiences at every level. So a tremendous opportunity for us we see in this partnership.
So what grades are participating, or is there field trips? Or?
Yes, we do have field trips at the elementary level. We can get you specific numbers. I know Colleen has all the numbers too, because in her presentation to me, she did include those. So Colleen, If you want to come to the mic.
Third, fifth, seventh, and high school science AP.
Can you repeat that for the record?
If you would come to the mic, Colleen, please.
It helps us record all the information for a later review. Please, thank you.
Presently, we have a contract with MISD for all third graders, fifth grade, seventh grade, and high school science AP. It's around 4,500 students.
Any other questions, Trustee Vela?
A follow-up, Mrs. Hook, on that, if I may. That's present facilities today, right, that we have. We'll be able to accommodate many more with any expansion that you are able to complete at Keith, is that correct?
So we are doubling our campus, our facility, our indoor learning spaces, and our outdoor learning spaces is just, it's unbelievable. There's nobody else that is going to have this. And every one of those aspects has been designed for science, leadership, the history walk. So we really see every student coming on campus from K through 12 and designing an integrated curriculum for their specific age group and needs.
So there'll be actual spaces for educational purposes in terms of classrooms or outdoor classrooms or outdoor learning environments, if you will.
Yes, so we have an indoor learning facility. We have a large, it's called a palm room, that could host leadership speakers for the students, all-day events, affairs, expos, and then of course we have this 5-acre enrichment park with all, the sensory garden and the leadership low ropes course and the Rio walk and the ethnobotanical gardens. Really seriously all designed for children's environmental education programming.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Trustee Suarez.
I'm going to ask you a really selfish question because nobody on the board wants to ask, so I'll ask. How much exclusivity does McAllen ISD have to this facility? The reason why I'm asking is I'm sure surrounding districts and even charter schools are going to want to leap into this. And we would love for it to be something that we can say we have priority to because we could add it to our curriculum and add it to a reason why you should come to McAllen ISD. So without putting you on the spot.
Well, MISD has been so wonderful to work with, and when we had our school contracts, before the school year even started, we knew the exact date and time of every school, and that was blocked off for the entire year, and nobody came above that. So that was a priority, and we would make that a priority as well, where everything would be scheduled. Obviously, you have to schedule school buses and teacher permits and things of that sort. So that would be a real easy thing to do. We're already doing it.
And I guess that's the final question. What's the completion date?
So that's a great question, and it's a great plus because this is a shovel-ready project, and we hope to open our doors in the fall of 2023.
Any other questions from the board? Trustee Sada.
I think it's fantastic. In some schools, we have mini metropolises. Now we'll have mini forests. And I just think it's fantastic. And lots of we did a survey to the community for the ESSER money, ESSER funding, and ranked up at the highest was field trips, that parents want more field trips for their kids. And I think it's so important that you don't have to go to San Antonio, you don't have to go to Houston, you don't have to go to Corpus Christi to do field trips. In our own backyards, we have these incredible facilities, and I think that we've got to be all in and reciprocate back and forth, and I think the partnership is fantastic. And I mean, whatever I think the board always feels, whatever we can do to facilitate, partnerships like this, I mean, we're all in.
Any other questions from the board?
Just concur on her comment, Trustee Alice's comments. I completely agree. And the one thing I asked Dr. Gonzalez, and I see Mr. Berry back in the room, if we can work with their staff to promote it on our social media, I think this is something the community needs to be aware of, all the things that are going to be offered in this new facility. So just thank you for being a partner with us.
Oh, thank you.
As it happens, the board president always goes last, so.
There's no more time.
I didn't know you were still, all right.
Getting ahead, Sam.
So make a motion for adjourn?
Sorry, what?
But
kidding.
we
I'm just kidding.
got a
I
lot
withdraw.
today, so Trustee Farina, you want to speak afterwards? Okay. Trustee Farina, and then I'll have a choice.
So the partnership is between UTRGV, McAllen ISD, the city of McAllen?
Yes, and Dr. Gonzalez had a one-on-one with Dr. Bailey. Do you want to share some?
Yes, as you look at the vision for the Center for Urban Ecology and what UTRGV is looking at committing, the brick and mortar structure, all that they're going to do with research and all they're going to do with continuing ed on that particular campus, it's world-class. So in talking to Dr. Bailey, he was very, very agreeable to a partnership. And the main thing with us is we know that other school districts would utilize the facility like they always have, but we want our name on it.
Yeah.
Right? And in order to get our name on it and our brand on it, that's where the administration is very, very interested, after talking to Quinta and after talking to UTRGV, to utilize some of our ESSER funding, because it ties directly to outdoor learning, it ties directly to authentic learning experiences, it ties directly to the scientific method and all that we do from a science, technology, engineering, arts, and math standpoint. So that's the part of what we really want as our name on the project. Okay. And then the utilization of and some level of exclusivity with regard to scheduling.
But we have that level of exclusivity now, right? Just randomly.
Yes.
We've submitted for a year ahead, or?
Yes. Now we want our name on this project.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? On the essence of time, we'll visit at a later time, but from my standpoint, I think the consensus of the boards we're in, we're going to have skin in the game. So it's just a question of how much and when and time frame. So we'll obviously have those discussions moving forward. Thank you for your presentation. Any other questions or comments from the administration on the 4:15 meeting? Okay. There's still other slides that we did not go over. Is there any slide in particular a board member wants to go over at this time? Do we want to keep this meeting open until after our hearing, or do we feel satisfied with the information we've had at this point? And then do I have a motion to adjourn if that's the case?
So moved.
Been moved by Trustee Alicea, seconded by Trustee Suarez. All in favor of adjourning the 4:15 meeting on the ESSER funds, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it 7-0. We are adjourned at
5:27.
5:27. We have about 3 minutes before the 5:30 meeting is going to come up. We obviously have still the 5:15 meeting, which I'm going to hold unless somebody wants to talk about that now, till after the two grievances, if time allows. So that meeting's still in recess. So we have about 3 minutes before the 5:30 meeting. If you guys want to take a little bit of a break.
It's good.